Some big news today that we're following. This is a live picture from Orlando, Florida. That's where Jonathan Rinderknecht, the man accused of starting the Palisades fire, is expected to make his first court appearance this morning.
Now, authorities say he lived in the Palisades, but he'd moved to Florida after the fires. Acting U.S. Attorney Palisades says prosecutors have more than enough evidence to make their case against him. We have live team coverage of the investigation,
as well as reaction from our local officials and people who lost everything in this fire, starting with our investigative reporter, Eric Leonard, who broke the story early this morning on Today in L.A. Eric.
Hi there. Well, federal prosecutors here have now confirmed that 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht is not only in custody today, but has been the focus of the investigation into the cause of the Palisades fire for months. The feds say they have evidence that from time to time he fantasized about starting fires, evidence that they say places him in the Palisades highlands about a week before the Palisades fire started, when a different fire started that they say he ignited and was the cause of the Palisades fire.
He was the only person in this location at the time this fire ignited. We have no other indication that any other person was there. There were no fireworks at the time. We have several cameras in the vicinity that are there designed to detect fires, and this fire was detected almost right away by those sensors. And you could see some of his thought process in the months leading up, where he was generating some really concerning images up on ChatGPT, which appears to show a dystopian city being burned down.
According to a criminal complaint, the feds say Rinderknecht had driven into the Palisades while working as an Uber driver on January 1st and deliberately set a fire around midnight. That was near the Skull Rock Trail, and that fire became known as the Lackman Fire, which was controlled in a few hours. The ATF says it has evidence that the Palisades fire that ignited a week later was what they call a holdover fire, meaning it started because embers still smoldering underground from that first fire relit in the intense winds January 7th, and prosecutors say that makes Rinderknecht responsible for the ignition of the Palisades fire. The U.S. Attorney's Office says he took photos and videos while still in the area on the night of that first fire. They say they found artificial intelligence-generated images on his cell phone that showed a wildfire. They say he even listened to a French-language rap song that has an associated music video that shows things being set on fire. And possibly coincidentally, they say he used to live in a home a very short distance from where that first fire was ignited.
I wish we could get into somebody's head, but we can't. People do evil things for whatever reason. And I'm not going to speculate or go into anything of that. Like, we have evidence of that will be addressed in trial, but evil people do evil things.
Rinderknecht is being held in Florida. He's expected to make an initial appearance in federal court there any time now. He's at the moment only facing a single federal charge of causing destruction by means of a fire, but the authorities here say more criminal charges are certainly possible. Live in downtown L.A. outside the federal courthouse in the U.S. Attorney's Office, I'm investigative reporter Eric Leonard, NBC4 News. Back to you.
Eric, can I ask you about the mountain of evidence they talked about having, all the way down to some Uber passengers that rode with him that night and claimed that he was very aggravated and angry? They have a lot of evidence that they've built over the months.
Well, it sure sounds like it. And at the news conference this morning, the head of the ATF here in Southern California and the acting U.S. attorney went to great lengths to describe the volume of information that investigators have looked through and processed over the months. I can tell you that this particular individual was on their radar really within a few months of the fire starting. They had him under intense surveillance for a while, and all the time they were trying to figure out what it was that could be discovered that they believed would associate him with the ignition of what we now know are both fires, but certainly that fire on January 1st. As you heard them mention, everything from electronic evidence, the cell tower data, certainly the information that was on his cell phone that they say they reviewed, statements that he made, and of course eyewitnesses, not only those Uber passengers, but also people who were living in the area that could help establish a timeline that they say all that other evidence puts him in the middle of.
You know, Eric, and then during that press conference, they didn't really give us much information as to how that fire started, other than it was an open flame. What are you hearing?
Well, initially, and as we've reported for months, people who live in the Palisades Highlands, who were there on the night of that January 1st fire, say that they heard fireworks going off, and many people believed, including some of the investigators early on, that that January 1st fire, which again they say they believe was a holdover event that caused the Palisades fire, was ignited that way. Now they're saying that's been ruled out. The investigators even spent time at one particular house up there in the Highlands where they believed fireworks were set off on New Year's Eve. But they say this fire, the brush fire that caused all the destruction ultimately in the Palisades fire, was lit in a different way. And in the criminal complaint, they even included a map and a photograph of the very specific spot where they say they believe this 29-year-old man walked into the wilderness areas just outside the neighborhood and set that fire. They, again, did, as you pointed out, did not give a specific about how it was done, but no doubt the ATF investigators who've been working this for months and months have a very clear idea. I expect we will see that as more information is disclosed in court.
All right, Eric Leonard reporting for us from downtown Los Angeles. Thank you for that. Now, of course, there is a lot of reaction to the arrest. Just minutes ago, Mayor Karen Bass addressed this new development, and this is what she had to say.
This is going to be a tough day because, to me, when things like this happen, announcements are made, you go back to that day. And I just, my thoughts will be with all of the families and individuals that are still not in their homes.
And interim LAFD Chief Ronnie Villanueva released a statement about the arrest. It says, in part, quote, "This action was deliberate, intended to cause devastating harm to the city of Los Angeles. This arrest is a critical step toward ensuring accountability, justice, and healing for our city. Although the flames have been extinguished, the impact of these fires will linger for years to come. Our hearts are with the families and neighborhoods who face tremendous loss."
And we're also hearing from LA City Council member Tracy Park, who represents the Pacific Palisades. In a statement, she said, in part, "No measure of justice will ever restore what was lost in the Pacific Palisades, and nothing will ever make this right for the thousands of people who lost everything: lives, homes, jobs, memories, futures." She goes on to say, quote, "This arrest acknowledges to every victim and survivor that what happened matters, that there will be accountability, and that their loss will not be forgotten."
Governor Gavin Newsom, meantime, is also reacting to the arrest. He says it marks an important step toward uncovering how the horrific Palisades fire began and bringing closure to the thousands of Californians whose lives were upended. This tragedy will never be forgotten. Lives were lost, families torn apart, and entire communities forever changed. And there must be accountability. NBC4's Lauren Coronado was at that news conference in downtown LA a couple of hours ago. She spoke one-on-one with LAPD Chief Jim McDonald.
So Lauren joins us live right now. Talk to us about what the chief said about what this arrest means to the community. It's significant.
Annabelle, Lynette, good morning. Yeah, the room was packed with cameras, with people, everyone trying to figure out what would come of this lengthy investigation. And yes, I spoke one-on-one with LAPD Chief McDonald about what happened, what this means for so many people impacted by the fire. Take a listen.
The message to the community is thank you, sincerely thank you for your patience, thank you for your partnership, for your resilience in getting through this tragic disaster that you experienced, we all experienced, and please be patient as we work our way through the prosecution.
Yeah, a message to the thousands who lost homes, businesses, schools, to those who lost loved ones. 12 people killed in the Palisades fire. 29-year-old John Rendernecht is expected to be making his first court appearance right now, in fact, in Florida. Investigators say, like you heard, he was living in the Palisades working as an Uber driver when he's believed to have started the Palisades fire on January 1st. The U.S. Attorney's Office says millions of pieces of evidence were reviewed, including the digital photo of a painting of a forest fire with a crowd of people running from it, along with other pieces of cell phone evidence. I spoke with ATF special agent in charge about how the fire started. You guys talked about this with Eric, too. He says they're not sharing more than the fire was sparked by an open flame.
We don't want to compromise this investigation and trial. So we're trying to be as transparent as possible, and that's why I highlighted the exhaustive effort, the ATF, and all the resources we brought to bear, and the amount of scientific process that we utilized to make the proper determination of this.
Yeah, you'll remember there was a lot of speculation, as you guys actually mentioned, about the fire starting because of fireworks. Well, the special agent in charge tells me that was ruled out, as you heard Eric mention as well. Now, we know that the fire was started because of the intense winds, or it was reignited, I should say, which picked up embers from that original January 1st fire that was burning underground. But gosh, this is such a big announcement for all of those who have been impacted. We're already getting a lot of word from local leaders, like you heard, and you can only imagine how much this means to those who lost their homes, who lost their businesses. Of course, there will be much more to come on this throughout the day. Reporting live in downtown LA, I'm Lauren Coronado, NBC4 News.
All right, Lauren, thank you.